Mr. Kyle Carpenter. What's up, man? Glad to have you back. This time in studio.
Yeah, and this time in Maine.
I guess we were, that's right. We did the first one.
Yeah.
In person as well.
Yeah, in person in South Carolina.
We did that at Sornex.
Yeah, shout out to Bert.
That was cool too. Because that library, whatever he's got right up there on top of that conference, that place is rad.
They did it right.
Between that and the museum.
Yeah.
With all their exercise equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Stuff his dad used to throw around.
Yeah, his dad is amazing.
Yeah.
He's got like these like cannonballs and anvils and they're like anything big, metal and heavy. Yeah. And they would, you probably know this, but they would just compete. Like who can pick that thing up, right? Like who can grip that or who can hold that the longest. So last time I was out there, what was I out there for? Oh, it was when we were out there for Summer Strong. Mm-hmm. Were you there that night where all of them, like Brandon Lilly and a bunch of them, were picking up anvils?
No, I didn't want to stick around and embarrass anyone. So
look, I get it.
I get it. I backed out. I gracefully backed out.
That was very gracious of you. They were legit picking up 100 and 200 pound anvils by the horn with one hand and just like trying to hold it. It was wild.
I mean, when you start talking about torn biceps and lifting 400 pounds with your fingers, I'm out.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Like these guys, they're just horses. They're just animals.
Yeah. Great experience though. And very thankful to be here and kicking it and spend some time with your family.
Yeah,
we
man.
Broke bread and cracked lobsters last night.
So this is your first time to Maine?
Yeah, first time.
So what do you think?
There'll be a second.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, we want to have you out and go hiking and get you out here and do some ice fishing we were talking about. That'd be awesome.
I'll see you this winter.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah,
that's the real test. That's the real test of friendship, by the way. Like if you invite people out in the spring and summer in Maine, easy day. But if you invite them in the winter, only the real ones come in the winter.
Come suffer with me.
That's right. Because we've been here for 2 winters now and they've been pretty mild, but it's also a legitimate winter.
I mean, isn't mild up here still snow 90% of the time?
It's just snow everywhere. But I like it. I actually really like it because you're staying at our place. And the cool thing about our place, it's kind of in the middle of different smaller cities.
Yeah.
So it's not real populated. But during a storm, it's amazing because there's nobody out. It's just quiet and calm, peaceful. It's amazing.
I'm going to come up here dressed like the kid from the Christmas Story. Walk around with my arms up everywhere.
We'll see if we can convince you to stick your tongue on the light pole or something.
I want to go home at some point.
So, man, anyways, man, we're really glad to have you out. I've just appreciated over the past couple of years. That's what we were talking about, I think, on the ride up here is that like we met, I think, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy how fast time goes. Like in fact, I think we met at Summer Strong.
Summer Strong.
I said summer. What I meant is we were at Winter Strong. That's what I meant earlier.
Yeah.
But we met at Summer Strong a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And you're going to present there this year, right?
I am. And ironically, you presented that year.
Yep.
And you impacted me as a speaker. And I immediately came up to you to pick your brain after.
Yeah.
And of course, you were super cool about it. But now we're here in your home state instead of mine.
Yeah.
Just chopping it up together, which is cool. The
cool.
Power of networking and friendship.
Networking, friendship, and then just having like this. The podcasting platform is so amazing because it gives opportunities. We were talking about this earlier too. It gives us opportunities that, man, it just wouldn't be present any other way. To like have you here staying at our house. Like I don't know if we would have ever met if it weren't for the podcast, because that's how I met Bert and that's how I got connected with those guys and the opportunity to speak there. And so the power of being able to do this podcast. And then of course the guys who listen in are what actually makes this happen. The other cool thing I was thinking is that my kids get to be the beneficiaries of all this too. Right. Cause they get to
Me too. I had an intense coloring session this morning.
Dude, Otto's the one that was funny is it was clearly an animal and it had the shark fin on it. And he's like, and you were trying to guess what it was and nobody could guess. And he was like, what did he say?
It's a dog with a shark costume on. I'm like, that's such a curveball. I wasn't ready for that.
Obviously, that's
sticking
what
with real animals. Yeah.
Obviously.
So then I hit him with the starfish with a hat on.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Did he didn't get that?
Nah, he wasn't ready for
Bring
that.
Bring it, kid. Bring it. So, yeah, my kids have enjoyed this time. Anyways, man, like I said, I'm just glad to have you out. I really wanted to talk about your service and, your views and perspectives, because I want to put this out on Memorial Day, because I think it's really important that we hear from you and other veterans who have sacrificed a lot to ensure that we have the liberties and the freedoms that we enjoy. And I think from my perspective, which is limited compared to yours, I just think that it's taken for granted that there's men and women like you who are willing to go do things that other people aren't willing to do or can't do. And most people don't even give it a second thought, which is a nice luxury.
Yeah.
But also a little bit sad at the same time.
Yeah, that's perfectly put. It is a little bit sad, but at the same time, it is such a luxury and a blessing to not have to have that thought cross your mind during the day. So, with that, I would say that it's, I don't know if it's 50-50, but it's I think it's a duty for people to strive to remember, to look up those history lessons, to think about how and why we are the way we are as a nation, how we've got to where we are, but also, and I talk to this about, veterans groups that I speak to, when I speak to corporate crowds and people ask me about veterans or veterans issues, we have to be honest as veterans, as military members, that, we can't get frustrated that, people, completely on their own don't always check themselves, with those historical lessons, the, lessons of perspective of this country, and not be willing to speak up as veterans and educate. You can't have it both ways. So, and I tell veterans this, you might not be ready to talk about your service, or you might not want to. You might not want to now. You might not want to ever. But there are veterans out there that can sit down, that can communicate, that can take a deep breath when someone asks them about their real life service and kind of compares it to Call of Duty. Instead of getting upset or mad or frustrated. Because I encountered this a lot at South Carolina, students coming up to me and they were appreciative and, they wanted to know about my service, but they would say, hey, you're the guy that won the Medal of Honor. And instead of getting frustrated in that moment, I just saw it as, after taking a big deep breath, I just saw it as, hey, they at least came up.
Right.
They took time to tell me thank you when they didn't even have to come over out of their day as a 18, 19-year-old kid. And, I had to realize that I could get frustrated and upset and potentially give them a bad outlook on the Marine Corps, Marines, our military, or I could take it for what it is. We also have to realize that we all have our own path. And we can't expect those who haven't served to know what it's like to serve.
Right.
To truly, really understand what that uniform represents. So as veterans, as hard as it is sometimes, give people slack, practice patience and understanding, and realize that you can educate to where, that person and that encounter has ripple effects, and they tell people about what you told them. And before you know it, somewhere someone's going to get on Google and look up those heroic stories or pick up that military book because you inspired them. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of our duties to continue to remember those that have given that ultimate sacrifice, and to try to continually educate and learn about the courage and sacrifice that brought this incredible country to what it is today.
Yeah. So, well, to go back to what you said about somebody coming up and said, "Hey, you're the guy that won the Medal of Honor." Would the hang up be the word "won"? Is that what you're referring to, or just the lightness of it, or?
No, definitely the one, and that would happen, and sometimes they say, "Oh no, we're not the Medal of Honor." I'll say the Purple Heart, and so. I know from that they don't really know the difference between the two.
Right.
And, the whole one piece of it. I didn't.
What's the word you use? Or would you prefer to be used?
Well, received or.
Earned? Would you use earned?
Yeah, earned. And this is nothing negative, but to an ignorant civilian, received is even fine.
Yeah.
But, and I don't really get too bent out of shape about it, but, and I might make a joke, like I didn't enter the grenade jumping competition.
If you did, you would have won.
Yeah, right.
But you didn't.
Yeah, I would have taken first place, but, but again, just patience and understanding that they just don't know. And ultimately, unless the conversation goes really rough, ultimately, again, in the crazy fast-paced world that we're living in today, especially college students only thinking about getting done with that next class and hitting the weekend.
Yeah.
They still took that 5 minutes to come over, say thank you, and take time out of their day to express appreciation. So, I always just tried to focus on that because, as long as you, express that you're a veteran, people know that, it's only going to continue. And with Iraq and Afghanistan essentially coming to a close, you are that most recent face of veterans for the foreseeable future.
Right.
Just like it's, that can be daunting. And to me, it's daunting in a very humbling way that for the rest of my life, I'm not only going to be a Medal of Honor recipient, but until we get back into conflict, hopefully they bring up a past action of someone that got overlooked, and maybe they'll become the new youngest recipient. But to not only be a recipient, to be the youngest recipient, I have to keep in mind that to always practice that patience and understanding, because the end of the road is not in sight for me.
Yeah.
But that applies to all veterans, just
sure, of course.
Replace veteran with Medal of Honor recipient and vice versa. And it's we all did the same thing.
Well, to varying degrees, right? Like, what you did and what I did was different. We both served, but to varying degrees. So I don't think we should discount that either. You know what I mean? Like, there's guys that go up and do their job, and that's what I did. I went and I did my job. I did what was asked of me, and I felt like I did a good job doing that. And then there's men and women who go above and beyond what is expected of them. And that's different. That's a different story.
It is different in hindsight, but you, myself, and to all out there serving or that have served, in the moment of joining and signing up, ultimately we all still raised our right hand to enter in a life of service, which is a life of the unknown. And knowing that, fast forward to the point in my career where that grenade was thrown, yes, our turnouts weren't the same, But what could have happened to any one of us, is equal. Because
that situation could have been anybody. You're saying
exactly. I just happened to be on that roof.
Yeah, but again, and I think we talked about this, and look, this is your experience, but from my experience, or my perspective, I should say, yeah, a grenade could have landed at my feet, but would I have done what you did? That's the
I don't know.
That's the real. I don't know. Like, if I'm honestly answering that question, it has to be I don't know.
Well, I didn't know either.
Right, but I would like to say yes.
Yeah,
I would. What's your natural instinct? Not to jump on it.
Other way.
Totally. So you went against your natural instinct to do something courageous, bold, sacrificial for somebody else. Not like that situation may have presented itself, and it has, to millions of people, and they didn't do that. They ran.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's our actions. What do we do in those moments?
Right. Yeah, going off that, for the first few years after everything happened, and I became more lucid after waking up, the country, the Marine Corps, the military and world wanted to know what happened, of course, in the 5 seconds that I don't remember. The moments where the grenade landed and, up until me covering it. And so that used to frustrate me because I couldn't remember.
Right.
But with time, I began to approach it and think about it differently. And I had to kind of take me out of it since I didn't remember and just think, how could someone do that? Why would someone do that? And I realized that the answer is that is the beauty of the human spirit. You never know how, when, or to what capacity you're going to step up and be a hero to someone, and really a life-saving hero, even with the smallest act of kindness or self-sacrifice. And just like with my book, always trying to think about either how to phrase or how to approach my military situations and relate to everyone. In the corporate world, let's say, to, put your arm around a junior employee and say, hey, I see you've kind of been down and out lately. What's going on? Like, let's go to lunch. Let me stay after, instead of rushing to get home, let me stay after 5 minutes and just see what's going on. If it's all good and it's just, hey, my dog died last week, okay, well, I'm here. And, because we all have our own struggles. We all handle them differently in our own time. So you never know how big or small it is. And sometimes you can't even see that anything's going on. But to just take that 5 minutes and, see if that other person's okay. Or in the military, take that young, fresh, motivated boot and, make sure that, the intensity or the amount of information they're getting, being a boot and coming in the military, yes, we all need to be hardened up for what lies ahead. But at the same time, it's intense. And I'm, not saying be soft or go easy on anyone, but you have to take in all factors. And what I mean by that is, when I came in, and I talk about this in my book, when I came in, I had, I don't want to say terrible, but I had a team leader that never once did I feel like he cared about us. It was always yelling with no purpose, no constructive criticism or just bringing you down. You just say, oh, go clean your room for the next 3 hours. And, me and my roommate, another boot, we would look out and, he'd just be drinking his energy drink and smoking his cigarettes and not really caring if probably we were cleaning at all or whatever we were doing. So I just say take, with anything in life, take the full situation and factors into account. And, that can be hard, not having a good leader, but being expected to progress and to be educated as you should. So if those pieces aren't there, that can be difficult and very scary to always feel like you're about to be asked a question. And this is, any situation like to be, scared that you're going to be asked a question and you can't, be there for your Marines when really you didn't have that leadership. So, ultimately just take that 5 minutes, try to really see the people around you and not just see them, know them. And, you never know how far or how deep, that moment will help or touch them.
I think this is a really important message. You're talking about what I would say is discernment, maybe. What I hear a lot of leaders will do is, and this seemed to be pretty prevalent in the military, at least my experience is, well, this is the way it's done, or this is the way, my leadership did it to me, so this is how I'm going to do it. It's like, well, I mean, maybe there's some validity to some of the way things have been done because there's tradition, there's legacy, there's proof of something working or not working. But then there's also your ability to discern whether or not this should be the way, whether or not it's actually serving. And then the other thing you talked about was, when somebody comes up to you and says something like, oh, you're the guy that won the Medal of Honor, exercise some discernment. And that's what you're saying. So what I see a lot of people do, and this is very, very prevalent in modern times, and I think social media is a big reason for this, is nobody exercises any discernment. They immediately get all emotional and pissed off and bent out of shape instead of saying, you know what, let me take a deep breath. Oh, this person actually is trying to thank me. They just happen to use the wrong sounds that came out of their mouths. That's the only thing that they did wrong. And people will fly off the hinges. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This person's trying to thank you. They're trying to honor you. Relax.
Yeah.
Try to discern what the intent is. This is somebody who's trying to do right. And we just don't do it. We don't take a deep breath. We don't pause. We're not reflective. And I'm speaking generally, but we don't think. We just get overly emotional about things and make dumb decisions that don't serve anybody.
And really, how did their terrible mistake of using the wrong terminology, what did that really do to you?
Yes, I mean, exactly.
Just
very sensitive. It's a very sensitive, but I think I look at your perspective and other individuals who have gone through physical or mental or emotional hardship, and as painful as I imagine some of that is, it's also a blessing because it hardens you, right? And so we were talking about perspective of, so here was one of the weird things when I came back from Iraq is I remember people getting, pissed off on the road because somebody cut them off. Or I would see the guy in front of me at McDonald's or whatever yell at the 16-year-old kid behind the counter because they put pickles on their burger. And I thought, coming back from Iraq, I'm like, really?
That's tough.
this is what you're worried about? And then I think of you with your recovery, what you went through, the physical, the emotional pain and struggle and difficulties, and I'm sure that's still present to a degree. That must have been, I can't imagine how hard that must have been, but also how much perspective you now have of what is actually hard and what is just really not that big a deal that maybe you worried about before that you don't worry about now?
Well, my tolerance might start drying up around the no pickles on my burger at McDonald's.
I'm with you. Fair on that.
There is not.
Wait, you want pickles on your burger or no pickles?
Oh, maybe extra pickles.
That's where we differ. No pickles on my burger.
No, but there's some things where I'm silently like, come on. But yeah, ultimately, perspective is a very beautiful and powerful thing. And perspective is one of the main reasons or terms of how and why, how I am where I am today and why I am who I am. And perspective was just such... I can't even express how vital of a role it has played in these past 11 years since the blast. I think perspective allows us to continually seek the silver linings and appreciate the blessings of life. And through perspective, we can evolve to where we see that glass half full, but still remember what it was like, when we could only see it half empty.
That's a good point, is you don't need to be naive or ignorant or, blissfully ignorant just because you're trying to see it half full. Like, you should be realistic too.
Yeah. Like, yeah, this sucks, but at the same time, like kind of we were talking yesterday in the car, they say all good things must come to an end. Well, all bad things must come to an end too. Mm-hmm. That pain, that memory, of course, will always be there. But when I talk to people and ultimately just try to, through words, help them with their own struggles. Grenade brain.
Is that what you call it? You call it grenade brain?
Yeah.
What is that? What is that like?
I'm actually good point.
I'm actually really curious about that. Like, I don't want to be...
99% of the time things run smoothly. And then there's that one point where I have this awesome statement I was about to hit you with.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
Well, so when you're talking about perspective, you were saying all good things come to an end, and so do all bad things. There's also things that we can do to make sure the good times last maybe a little bit longer and the bad times go away a little quicker. Because sometimes I'll hear people say that and it almost sounds a little passive, like, oh, when it's time, it'll be better or worse or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, okay, everything in its time, but also you have a part to play in it.
Yeah, you can heavily influence that timeline,
right?
And that outcome. Yeah, it's just perspective has to be worked at, and sometimes it's not, actively, nonstop throughout your day trying to change your outlook. Like, that will come over time. I think ultimately you just have to realize that first and foremost, you can get through it.
Right.
You can get knocked down in life no matter how hard. And whether you're physically, mentally, or emotionally different, you can come back better and stronger. You have to realize that no matter what, there is a light. However far that tunnel is, there is a light at the end of it. Mm-hmm. And you have to realize, like, talking to people all the time, it's like, man, I regret doing that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that, or, that decision, ruined my life. you have to realize that you are where you are who you are as strong as you are and resilient as you are only because of the negative and tough times. Of course, the positive, the family, the blessings of life, all of that, of course, makes you better. But to become the best version of yourself and I don't think you can ever reach your full potential, but to be able to continually strive towards your full potential and again, become the best version of yourself, you have to go through that struggle.
Yeah.
And as you go through it, realize that it's making you stronger. It's making you better. It's going to make you more resilient. And you're going to come out of the other side of that tunnel better and more equipped from that hardship than before you got knocked down. And so, some of those most long, dark, and painful nights and the uncertain days, when I was telling you about my nerve graft surgeries yesterday,
right.
They attach these nerves and you have to work every single day with no result. It's not like, oh, it twitched a little bit right out of surgery, I'm going to keep working on it. No, 3-4 months and there's not a twitch. There's not a movement. You slowly lose hope because you think there's been no connection. And then one day it works and you're back up again. And so that's kind of like life and struggles. You have to keep working, keep the hope, keep positivity, and I promise you can get through it.
So, it's easier to say that in looking back in it. Like, you just have to have hope after something's worked out. Like, let's take your nerve grafts, for example. It's easier to say, oh yeah, everything's going to work out because you have the benefit of knowing that it worked out.
Right.
So how do you have that faith and that hope, like you talked about, when you're in the midst of it? Because I'm sure there was plenty of nights where you didn't think to yourself, you thought the opposite. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to get better. Like the connections haven't made it. And so what for you gave you even just a sliver of a hope to continue doing what you were doing?
Yeah, that's actually a great point, Ryan. And no one's ever thrown it back at me like that. So I appreciate that because you're right. Exactly what you said. A lot of times it was kind of the other side of it. But, and I understand this next statement will probably be because of the degree I was injured. But even when I was down and out, and surprisingly, I never really got that down and out because I was still alive. I was still here.
You always had that perspective of I'm here.
Whatever. Like, I'll just keep at this and get as well as I can. But again, and with perspective, it's even when I kind of got down and out or was having a hard day or didn't want to go back into that next pre-op at 4 a.m. and then the next surgery and recover for the next 2 weeks and then do it all over again. It is easy to say, oh, well, in the moment, to have those low moments and difficult times. But no matter what, you can still step back and I can say, okay, well, this, I'm a little down and out because this nerve's not reconnecting and my hand's not going to work. But I still have this arm. I still have this arm. I still have my brain. Like, yeah, I could get down and out about being blind in my right eye, but I still have my left eye. Like my right eardrum was completely blown out, but I still have my left one. Now, for me, it does get daunting, and I have to just hold hope, which I easily have in modern and military medicine. Mm-hmm. You know, but I don't focus on the long run too much. And instead of thinking of the end game, besides that, and just, when my final moments come, what are the big things that I wish to have done in my life? Just vague, make an impact on the world. Besides that, I try not to think specifically about the long run too much, because it is scary to think, okay, I've got one good eye. Like, even if I take care of it and it doesn't get injured, and
right.
I always wear eye pro and all that, age catches up with everyone.
Or Nerf gun battles like last night.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
A couple eyes are almost taken out last night. And it was intense.
Well, but you said it, and this actually, when you said it, it hit me. It struck me kind of interestingly. Last night we were having the Nerf gun battle at the house, right, with Pete and you and the kids and me, and everybody was going at it. And you said, let's not be shooting any eyes out, or you said something like that.
Yeah.
And you said it as a joke, right? You're joking. But actually it's true. Like, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Right? But there's something that I noticed in you, and I've noticed it in Crispy, who we talked about yesterday, and also in Travis Mills, men who have gone through these situations physically and mentally like you have, and used like your humor, not to hide from it, but just to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the reality. And so we don't always have to take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people would. I mean, maybe you did. I would, like, I'm a very serious person just by nature, so I would make it more serious than it needed to be, and I think that would become a hindrance to me instead of just facing it, making light of it in a way, and just having fun with it to a degree, which is maybe a weird thing to say. I don't even know if that's the right thing to say. Making light of it, like
yeah.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I mean. I think anyone will understand trying to make a heavy or difficult situation in good time, at the right time,
yeah,
a little lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially those that have served. Of course, you understand that sometimes in those places around the world that are a little sketchy, and instead of bullets flying, it's a little eerily quiet. Sometimes during those moments of life, civilian or military, you have to get through the situation. And some people do that by being serious and I don't want to say focusing more, because I felt like even though I was cracking jokes in Afghanistan, I was still focused. But yeah, some people, it just helps to be lighthearted with it and get through it. And also, of course, Crispy's a man. Love so following him. But I think, again, going back to the beginning conversation, there are veterans that are willing to talk to any and everyone about any and everything with their service. And, I believe, and I don't try to be funny or make jokes, really, for anyone just but myself and whoever I'm hanging out with. But, I think, with me or Crispy to, make, the situational lighter or make a joke, I think that helps us connect with people and allows us to because even if we don't take it serious, like I've realized in speaking, and maybe we forget a little bit because of just what we went through and how crazy it is, but it's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And so to
The heaviest
hit people with just, heavy comment after serious hospital talk, bam, 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 you can take people too low to where you can't bring them back up. And I think humor just plays such a vital role in our journey and recovery, but also connecting with people, from that blast or that last day in the hospital on.
Yeah. When you talk about sharing your story, you do such a great job of I don't want to say present, because that makes it sound contrived, but you do a great job sharing your story and your experience. Were there times where you didn't want to do that, or are there still times where you don't want to do that, or is it some sort of duty or obligation or responsibility that compels you to do it? What does that look like?
Unofficially, dude, I have no idea. My parents said I got hit with a grenade. I woke up and I could speak. And the crazy thing is, like and just keep in mind, everyone, the human brain is already next level crazy. But after you get hit with a grenade and you're half out of it and half medicated in the hospital, it gets a little crazier.
You told some stories the first time we did a podcast about, like, I think there's something about your father or
just on my hallucinations.
Yes.
Yeah. Whew. So that was wild. But when I woke up, my Aunt Terry had come to visit and kind of help out, give my parents a break because they were on constant shifts looking after me. And I woke up randomly in the middle of one night, and according to her, I woke up and I pretty much told her the whole story, like everything that happened, and then went back to sleep. And when I woke up, I didn't even know the story.
You didn't remember talking to her about it.
And she just was so mind blown and could not believe it. And she's like, "No, Kyle, she didn't know how to play it because I hadn't really woke up or said much up until that point. And so she didn't want kind of that moment for my parents not to be there. But you can't say "Oh, Kyle, hold that thought until your parents get back tomorrow morning."
Right.
And so she kind of just didn't know what to do. So she let it happen. And I hit her with this crazy story, and she still remembers every single word. And I went back to sleep and didn't know it ever happened. And I didn't even remember what I had even told her. And so, I forgot the original question, but
I was talking about you presenting it and sharing your story. And do you feel, did you always want to share it, or did you feel like it was some sort of obligation to do it?
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. So in the beginning, it was just kind of like family, small groups. Like the first group I ever spoke to was a few elementary school kids in Sunday school.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny because, and I've learned since, all the kids that I've spoke to, but I'll get to the school, fill in the blank on the school, but I'll get to the school and, first thing, one step in the door, all the administrators, "Okay, Kyle, we're so happy and honored to have you here," so on and so forth. But, remember, these are kids. And I'm like, I already know where you're going. I'm not going to talk about anything crazy. I can handle it. But, I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir," whatever. And, dude, I'll get done. "Okay, anybody?" 100 hands up.
I bet.
"Did you shoot anyone?
Yeah.
What does blood look like?" Okay.
I can't talk
so
about
the first 12 questions was 12 of the 13 they told me not to talk about.
Yeah.
But I just started with, at first it was like, "Oh, cool. People want to hear my story." I was still half medicated, and I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So a bunch of local stuff, and then got off the medication a little bit and went and got a couple nice clothes because all I had was dusty camis that were sent back from Afghanistan. And then, it was like a year or two later, the local Rotary Club. And then I started going to USC, and all the athletic teams wanted me to come speak. And it was never a plan. It was always just like literally event to event. Like, okay, well, they want me to come speak. I'll do that. That's a good group. I want to help them. I'll come do your nonprofit event, raise money for veterans, whatever. And I don't know. It just, over the years, it kind of transitioned to me always kind of knowing that this wasn't going to be the main and only thing I did in life.
Right.
But I started to see it as a way to help people just through their own struggles. And I only realized that, all these things that like were evolving were because other people were helping me, or every once in a while I would get a good piece of advice from a mentor, or kind of unexpected things. Like early on, I remember a lady came up to me after an event, and she told me, I have such terrible arthritis. I can't even get out of bed in the mornings unless I look up your Facebook page first.
Really?
And I see that you can do. I know I have chills right now, and this was probably 9 years ago. And moments like that, and that was really the first one I remember, but moments like that, thinking, well, okay, I helped her, and her struggle has nothing to do with the military, but pain is pain and struggle is struggle. And so I realized that, at least, even if it was she was the only person out of the whole country that was feeding off of me, or I was helping, that was kind of like an epiphany type moment. And then I just kept going event to event, and I have a little iPad, and I would make notes. And then after, I would say, I'll erase it. And I'll say, I could say that a little better to help be more efficient, or change this word to allow the terminology to sink into civilians' thoughts a little better.
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept working on it. And somehow I've, found myself in front of Fortune 500 companies, and,
the Order Man podcast.
Yeah.
Twice.
The ultimate, like speaking to like, and a lot of my journey, honestly, Ryan, it's been like, what am I doing here?
I was going to ask, is there any sort of like, I shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be doing this, or why do people want to hear from me? Is there any of that?
I tried to always shy away from I shouldn't, because I felt like, okay, I might not give the top tier greatest speaking performance, and I might not, quite be at the level where I could be speaking to a Lockheed or a Bank of America. But I am proud to say that every single thing from that first little group of Sunday school, elementary school kids until the event I did a couple weeks ago to a medical logistical conference down in Orlando, every single thing, whether it was one person or 5,000, every time I spent hours and days thinking about my audience and what I was going to say, and I gave my very best and most ultimate effort. Now, sometimes that was slack too, because for my 5 years of school, because I had to withdraw from the medal for a year, but my 5 years of school and traveling almost every weekend, doing all my schoolwork, exams, everything, mostly in hotel rooms or on planes, for many years, I was like completely ran into the ground.
Yeah.
But I gave my best effort with how I was in that moment. Yeah. And so now, again, I don't think speaking is going to be the main thing I do or what I'm known for in the end, but I do see it as something I always want to be a part of my life. I see it as a sense of duty, a beautiful obligation. Because a lot of times, would I kind of rather want to sit on the couch and rest and, watch movies all weekend? Yes.
Right.
But, I might be able to make that impact. Or if there is that one person in the audience that is really struggling. Like when I went to that conference in Orlando, this guy came up to me after and he said, man, dude, I was going to put in my 2 weeks notice today at the end of the business day. He said, I have tinnitus, which is ringing in your ears.
Right.
And he said, it just gets to me. He said, I thought I needed a break. Like I was going to be out. Like this was my last conference with this company. And he said, I'm not going to do that. He said, I can keep going. And, we hugged it up and I just told him, keep going with the small steps. Just keep getting better. Keep making it through tomorrow, next week. And, just moments like that, if I would have laid on the couch instead of going down there, who knows? And I can't stay in that mindset, every second of every day.
Of course, right.
Because then you start like guilt tripping yourself. And then you get to where, like I was back in the day, you become a yes man and you just do anything and everything. And then that kind of gets to a point where you're doing so much and you're going so hard that you start to become not as effective. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot that goes into the balance of life, whether that's family and work, whether that's rest and going hard, whatever it is, there's a balance and you can push that balance, good or bad, a little on the work harder, a little to the lazy side, but never too drastically. And it never stays the same. You have to continually learn and kind of feel it out. Okay. Now I might be getting a little older, might want to rest a little more, or I rested when I was younger. Now I want to go a little harder. So, it just depends. But through my journey, good people helped me. I took the initiative to try to learn and get better, even though I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, from the contracts to just learning how to talk to people on a very professional scale.
Sure.
And the biggest thing, and I wish someone would have just like knocked me upside the head 10 years ago before I got too crazy and run down and said, hey, it's okay to say no. You feel bad maybe, but you're only one person. Mm-hmm. You can't help everyone. And you just got to say no sometimes. And you can do it respectfully in a loving way. And you can say, hey, come back to me next year. But this weekend, I do need to rest. And I just can't go all the way across the country. And, every group and every person is important. But I can't fly to California and have to be back by tomorrow morning to go and speak to, 20 middle schoolers or whatever
just
it
not
is.
Gonna happen.
Yeah,
sure.
As much as I want to, and I'll always speak to kids, I'll always speak to veterans and love anyone and everyone. But, there comes a point where you have to realize that you're only one person and that your time is valuable and that, and I think ultimately your health is the most important, mentally or physically. And if that's not good, other things might be good for a little while, but that needs to be the foundation.
Yeah. I like what you said about beautiful obligation is the term that you used. That's an interesting way to frame it. Because when you think of obligation, I think of, I have to do this. It's my obligation. I don't want to, but I have to.
Yeah.
But the framing of beautiful makes it like, hey, this is a sacrifice. This is hard work. I don't always want to be doing this, but there's meaning and there's purpose and there's significance behind it. And so, I'm going to do it. And not only just do it, because I think a lot of people will just check the boxes like, I had to do this thing. And so here you go. But putting that framing of beautiful in front of it is like, no, I do have a responsibility to do this, but I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it with purpose and meaning and significance behind it, weight behind it.
Right.
And that changes responsibility. It makes it worth doing. It makes it actually enjoyable.
Exactly. Yeah. Who wants to get done with something and know, even if you killed it, if they, by the time you walked off stage, hired you again for their next annual conference, I mean, what's worse than getting done with something and thinking, I could have given another 30%.
And all of us have been there.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And we'll always be there.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
right. Which is good too, though, because if you think, it would be weird to think I've done as good as I ever can.
Yeah.
I've reached the pinnacle of my speaking abilities or podcasting or fitness or whatever.
I hope no one ever says
done.
That.
Like, why live in that case?
Exactly.
What do you have to live for if you think you're done?
Exactly. Yeah. And also, kind of like we were talking about yesterday, getting to a point where you not only welcome the suck and the hardships and the pain, or you not only embrace it, but you welcome it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just like what you just said, embrace that, you know, whether you didn't do good on this one activity, workout, speaking engagement, you know, as long as you prepared and gave your best effort, if you don't execute to perfection, embrace that.
Right.
Welcome that, because just like the struggle, when you're kicking yourself after you get off stage, like, man, I could have said that better, or, you know, why did I say that in that moment? That directly translates to you doing better and not making that mistake the next time.
I think it can. I don't think by default it does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, like, I don't think it intrinsically means that, because I know people and of people who would say, oh, you know, I didn't do as good as I could have, so I guess I'm just not cut out for this. And they use it as an excuse.
If that's a good point. Say, maybe you aren't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, nothing against you. Find something else. But if you know, as a speaker, you want to get in front of people, influence, and this is just my 2 cents. This is not me speaking as a great professional speaker, but you know, if you have that realization and that insight as to, oh, I messed that up, and you can't walk off stage and make a couple notes, and before you get back in front of that next group, take 15 minutes to sit there and close your eyes and think about editing and changing that line in your mind, and making a note on your paper in your mind or on your iPad, then you're probably not cut out for, you know, public speaking, at least a growing career.
That goes for anything, right?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That goes for anything. And if that is the case, like, you know, get it going. You know, just
so one of the things I hear from people is they'll ask, you know, when do you throw in the towel? Like, when do you quit? Like, when should somebody quit doing what they're doing, or a job, or whatever? And I've thought a lot about that, because I believe there are appropriate times to quit. Like, there's times where you think, okay, this is something I don't want to do anymore. And I think that's the distinction. When you get to the point where you're indifferent, or you don't care about it. You don't care about the outcome or the result. I started to feel that way when I had my financial planning practice. Like, there was meaning in it. There was value. I was making good money. I felt good because I was helping people. But I'd have clients call, and I'd look at my phone, and I was like, ugh. Not because it was that person, But I didn't want to have that conversation. I was so indifferent to it. I didn't care. And I'm like, yeah, it's time to move along. And I think that's the point where we throw in the towel. But as long as, like you're saying, you get done with a presentation, you think, well, I didn't kill it, but I'm going to kill the next one, then you need to keep going.
Right.
Because there's still interest there.
Exactly. And there is, like you're saying, that point of you're not invested. You don't really care. You might still care about the people, you might not, but also, try to always be in tune with, are you seemingly getting to that point because in your heart you aren't really in it anymore, or you aren't invested? Or are you reaching that point and feeling those things because you didn't do steps 3 through 6 on the way to that final endpoint?
So you're saying maybe instead of jumping to the conclusion that it's over, try doing it right first.
You're crushing your own journey.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right. And maybe even purposely.
Yeah.
I've seen people do that. They're so talented or so gifted or so skilled in something, and there's some activity or some mindset that they have, and they sabotage their own success. But in a lot of ways, I think it's because they're afraid of what they're going to need to continue to do, or afraid of how people will perceive them. Or, I've even seen very talented people in different facets of life who are afraid of that talent because they can't handle the pressure of, what if they screw up, because they've always been so good at it, maybe even naturally gifted at something, and they can't handle the fact that maybe at some point they're going to screw up, or they're going to come across something that is better than them, and they have a hard time dealing with that.
That might be the scariest version of all.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think so we all place pressure on ourselves, right? To perform in different facets of life. I mean, really, the successful have it just as much as the unsuccessful, but the successful people have just managed to deal with it. Okay, yeah, you might not be your best, so prepare, like get better, improve, so you don't come face to face with that reality.
Yeah. You
said something a minute ago that kind of struck me, and I can't remember the exact terminology you used, but you said I had to. What was it? You had to step away from the medal, or put the medal up, or something like that while you were going to school. You said something along those lines. Does that ring a bell? Like you had to step away from the medal, or put the medal. It was something like that.
Maybe just talking about going through. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Maybe I missed the context. It just seemed like when you were saying it, there was something about, 5 years I had to step away to do schooling and focused on that.
It just took me 5 years to complete my degree because in the middle of school I had to withdraw.
That's
for a semester.
Oh, got it.
For the medal.
Yeah. Okay, I misunderstood the context.
Yeah,
got it.
But also, school was interesting. I absolutely loved it. I would go back right now and do the whole 4 years over again. Academically, I learned a lot, which is maybe an obvious statement for school and college. But
I don't know. Not so obvious in this day and age. There's a lot of time, and a lot of learning, or a lot of instruction going on. I don't know how much learning is going on.
Yeah. And so, that was, as crazy as it was to drive out of the gate of Walter Reed after 3 years.
Yeah.
And pretty much the next week be walking to freshman classes as a 23 or 24-year-old. I had to learn it forced me to start thinking about the recipient I was going to be, publicly. Of course, there's socializing in school, people drinking. At times you find yourself in situations that whether you shouldn't be in or you don't want to be in, with the million camera phones around you. And so, I had to, be that guy. Maybe people thought at times, and some expressed, like I was a, weirdo in that moment, and no one really understood why I was saying, hey, like, I don't want to be in this picture. I need to leave wherever I'm at, whatever the case was. But that was just kind of like an expedited kind of 4 or 5 years before the real world that really, makes you think about. And I think everyone in those formative years, and mine just were a little delayed because the military.
Right.
But you think about who you want to be, the person you want to be, the type of people you want to surround yourself with. And of course, in the mix of that, I just had to, think about and realize the recipient I wanted to be, and not just socially, but in the real world too, the groups I wanted to associate with, the organizations I wanted to help. And through all that, learning, unfortunately, what it seemed like when people approached you with very selfish things, or people that, for years, again, I had to learn how to say no, and at times kind of be the bad guy, just sticking up for myself. But like through navigating college and being a brand new recipient, also being disheartened every once in a while because, people would, we'd have all these pre-event talks. I would get on a plane and they'd say, oh, this person's picking you up at the airport. You'll have a 4-hour break and then the event, and then you're off on, you can do whatever for the rest of the night. I would get there. There would be like 4 or 5 people waiting on me when I got off the plane, just like to spend some time with me, take pictures and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm already like getting, destroyed before I even leave the airport. Cause then, they're wanting to take pictures right there in the gate.
Of course.
Then other people are coming over like, what's going on? Who's this guy? Oh, my uncle who I've never met, 7 generations down on my mom's side. He was like in the Coast Guard for 6 months. I'm thinking like 6 months. The story's already falling apart after the 7 generations. And so, but people are amazing and I appreciate it. But they would get me to events knowing that I didn't have any representation. They knew it was just, me being generous and goodness out of my heart coming to help them. They had hit me right when I got off the plane. And then they'd say, oh, well, we got some board members that want to spend time with you. So we're going to go to lunch, but you'll still get an hour to relax before the event.
Oh, yeah.
So then I'm rushing to get ready. I'm by myself and I can't button. So I have to block off, like if I need to be ready at 6 a.m., I'm up at 5, showered and everything ready by 5:15 because it takes me 45 minutes to button hook my shirt with a tool, put my tie on. So I don't really have that hour. Then I go straight into the event. I haven't taken a breather. I haven't gotten any food, barely a drink of water for the past 4 hours since I landed. I've already taken 200 pictures. Then I'm going on stage. And, before I started working with the Speakers Bureau very recently, I, again, was kind of like a lone ranger for many years. Like I had to learn the structure of events. Say, hey, I'm taking this 2-hour break before the event. I don't care if the president is wanting to sit down with me, And so then I didn't give a hard stop time. I didn't know to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So instead of 12 to 1 and the last 15 minutes being a Q&A, it was 12 to 2 p.m. and then the Q&A started. And after, I was going to get a little break after and do what I had the rest of the night free. But there's some Blue Star families that have come in and want to have dinner with you.
Mm-hmm.
And well, not really some, there's 27.
So you're doing another
So it's
event.
like next 5 hours. And so I'm getting to my room at, midnight, and I'm flying out on the 5:20 flight to be back in class at 8 a.m. So it's just like a lot to learn and navigate. And, but ultimately, that was just an amazing time period. And everyone's like, oh yeah, you loved it so much because you were in college and all this stuff. And it's like, not really. Like, yeah, that was amazing. But have you ever been essentially locked in a hospital for 3 years and told you can't leave until we complete these 40 surgeries on you? And so for those 3 years, and people think like, oh, it was just a physical recovery and, you were there, whatever. But it is difficult to not only be in that state recovering in the hospital, but it's a difficult pill to swallow when you realize the rest of the world keeps spinning.
Still going.
Perfectly fine.
And you're stuck in like Groundhog Day.
You get some cards, you get some phone calls, and I got a lot. Like I will never discredit that. Every single person that when I woke up in the hospital, my mom had, they just dumped letters of support and encouragement from every corner of the country, every state, and they dumped them in my mom's trunk and filled it up. And they read them to me for hours at Walter Reed while I was laying in the bed. So I'll never take anything away from that. But, the world keeps spinning. All of your friends that you were in high school with. And this is not a pity party. I would never change anything.
I think it's important because this is like we were saying earlier, it's perspective.
Right.
And people need to know this stuff because they don't have the type of hardship that you went through and still, I'm sure, go through at times.
And so the world keeps spinning, and all the kids I was in high school with are living it up and not a care in the world in college. All of my Marines I was with, thankfully, most of them didn't get injured or killed. So they were still over there together doing what I wanted to be doing. And like, you mentioned hallucinations earlier. One of my worst hallucinations that, kind of haunts me, but still gives me perspective every day was before I really woke up 5 weeks later. For people not familiar with this part of my journey, there was like maybe 8 to 15 hours that I woke up somewhere in the 5-week unconscious stretch. And I was either going into a big brain surgery or coming out. But anyway, the medication levels kind of weaned off and I woke up a little bit. But with the trauma, with the medication, waking up in that crazy state, again, it was only a few hours, but it seemed like it would never end. And it seemed like it went on for months. But I had terrible, and that's still an understatement, but terrible hallucinations. And one of the most powerful ones was I was standing, and sorry, Ryan, I might have told this in the first one. I can't remember, but I was standing in this massive open field, and there was only one tree in the whole field. And I was standing beside it on top of, it wasn't a big hill. It was just a slight sloping incline up to this small hill with a tree on it. And I was looking down in the valley of this hill, or from this hill, and there was a funeral going on. And the only person there in this entire field was me and the religious figure leading this funeral. And there was a hole in the ground where the casket was. And my feet are stuck. I can't move. I'm forced to just stand there and watch this. And I remember thinking, like, what am I doing here? Like, whose funeral is this? And then I realized it was mine. And no one had come. And so I realized that no one came because all my buddies were upset with me and they hated me because I left them in Afghanistan. And so, of course, that wasn't true. And when I woke up, they were calling me and bugging me from Afghanistan all the way to my hospital room bed. But, yeah, like, you know, the world keeps spinning. I left my buddies. That was extremely hard. And then, you know, also you don't just leave them, but you leave them knowing that the next blast could get them and you're never going to see them again. And you didn't even get to spend those final moments in Afghanistan with them. So, that happened. But ultimately, again, you know, you can learn, from every situation, good and bad. And, you know, that moment, as crazy and untrue and just weird and crazy as it was, that moment kind of translated to, you know, in my brain for the rest of my life, taking that, you know, moment, but kind of using it and thinking, okay, well, obviously that didn't happen, but that will happen one day. I will be getting put in the ground and I will be having my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about that and that hallucination to think, you know, what am I doing in my life so that when, you know, I reach that time and those final moments and my funeral, who will want to be there? And what will I have done to hopefully at least have a couple people there?
Might be a few people to show up.
But what will I have done to impact people to where they, you know, kind of want to tell me thank you for the life and legacy that, you know, I gave?
Is that what drives you, is to leave a positive impact on the people you encounter and come in contact with?
Yes, but ultimately, you know, not for money, not for likes, not for anything. But I would say what you just said, but on the biggest and greatest scale possible. And again, not for the money or attention or people knowing my name. It's more, and kind of like with public speaking, I always thought, okay, well, the better I can get, the bigger groups I can get, the more people in the audience that translates to.
Sure.
Therefore, the more people I can touch, connect with, and help.
Right.
So yeah, I guess ultimately just, you know, the most summarized way I could put how I want my life to go is just making the biggest and best impact on the world with the short and finite time that I have left, that we all have left.
Do you feel like the experience that you went through was just a random experience that just happened to happen to you because you were there at the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, however you want to look at it? Or do you think that this was part of something that it was supposed to be you, and that it's putting you in the position that you're supposed to be?
You just had to ask me the question I've never had an answer to.
The best kind of questions.
Yeah.
That you have to ponder and think on.
Yeah. You know, I don't, I won't say I think about this to the point where I struggle with it, But I wish I had $1 for every time I've thought about, was I just in that position? And thankfully I stepped up to be the fellow Marine and friend that I could. Or did it happen exactly as it should have? And did I get put through that because it was necessary and would lay the foundation to give me the tools that would become essential in impacting the world? And it's a tough but powerful and beautiful question, because it might take me the rest of my life to have any more insight into that.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a single moment, which I've already experienced, like when the Marine whose rank and ribbon rack showed me had probably been in combat since I was in diapers, told me that he didn't take his own life because if I could get up every morning and push forward, he could too.
Mm. Or
I might reach that funeral and I still won't have the answer. But a lot of things in life are about the chase and about the discovery and the journey to that discovery. And so, going all the way back to the very beginning of this, I just, no matter what questions I can or cannot answer, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never met you, your family, Pete last night. I would have never learned the Southern boy would have never learned how to properly crack a lobster up, down, and side to side. So every day, as crazy as some of those big questions are every day, I just think, man, how amazing and how crazy is it that I almost never experienced this. I almost never very painfully crossed the finish line of that marathon or felt like what it was like to jump out of a plane or to have someone, tell you that you truly helped save them. And so, ultimately, I'm just, every day's a bonus round, and I'm gonna keep living them until my time's up, or thankfully, hopefully I have that answer.
My wife asked you a question last night and said, what do you like to do? I think is the question she asked.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I just like to explore and adventure and try new things. And I thought that, again, I think the underlying theme of what we're talking today is perspective. And so you talking about jumping out of a plane and doing the marathon and all this stuff is like, I wonder if that desire for experience and trying new things comes from how close you were.
Yeah, absolutely.
To not being able to experience that stuff.
I mean, I had a foundation. My mom, we always took local adventures, road trips around Mississippi where I was born, all over the Southeast to see family. And, I think I had the spark. But yeah, man, at 21, when I got extremely tired and the blood was pouring out and I thought those were my final moments, to wake up and have an entire lifetime, hopefully, to just, again, experience those things that I thought I never would have when the lights went out. is just amazing. And that is absolutely what I enjoy and what drives me. But also, and I've been thinking about this lately, those final moments were not just a blessing. They were somewhat of a curse because, I don't struggle with my injuries. I don't struggle with what happened. I've never looked back and thought, man, I wish I could change that or do that differently. And even the grenade and what happened, it's like, whatever, like these are the cards. But those final moments also gave me a deep and genuine fear of time.
How short it is or what?
How short it is. And how you can't do everything.
That's still something. That's
every
the
day,
quote unquote curse you're talking
every
about.
Day.
Still,
and sometimes I have to remind myself I have to continually focus on being present. Because whereas some people are like, oh, I can't wait to get to the weekend, or I can't wait till my vacation next month. I'm always living in the past because I enjoy the experiences and the moments I have so much. I'm like, man, what if I never get to do that again? Or that was so backpacking Europe with my buddies. Like, I'll never have that exact trip again. And that's what makes those moments so beautiful.
Sure, of course.
But I get like perpetually stuck in thinking about, like, oh man, that was amazing. And that was also when I was 27. Now I'm 31. Like, and also knowing that when my time comes, I won't have been able to visit every city and country in the whole world.
Right.
And it's like, not bad things, but you really, I learned early on that the past is truly the past and you can't change it and you can't get it back. So I'm like, reteaching myself the lessons that I thought I had truly learned early on. And it's like, it's kind of funny, kind of serious, and kind of like a beautiful thing because life is that awesome. It's just, those final moments, they taught me so much, good and bad. And one of those is, and we all know this, but life is short and life is finite. And time flies when you're having fun. And like a couple weeks ago, someone said, "Oh, yeah, that's so crazy. The Miracle on the Hudson was 10 years ago."
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's wild.
Dude, what? I had to sit down and I had to think like, nah, they got it wrong. It was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
just really mind-blowing. And so I'm now in life, and I say now, and this has really just been, realizing, because during quarantine, I finally, for the first time in like 10 years since the blast, had a chance to slow down just because, went from running and gunning in Afghanistan to the hospital, focusing on my injury. A week after the hospital, school. 2 weeks after school, started working on the book, and then that took 2 years. So take away quarantine, I'm just now, kind of getting to a point where I'm ready to thinking about that next step along with speaking, whatever that is for me. But quarantine was the first time I had a chance to really rest, settle my mind, and think about where I've been, where I'm at, where I'm going. And I think that's when I started to really focus on it and realize it. I've never, obviously it's been recent, but I've never really talked about that before, mentioned that, or I don't even think I really realized how much I focused on like the past and how much I just enjoy life. But, everything has a dark side to some degree, or maybe not dark, a difficult side. Nothing's ever just perfectly, at least nothing ever worth having, like we talked about, is ever worth just all only having a pure, perfectly good and easy side. But yeah.
When you, so you talk about the lights going out, you alluded to this, and I want to clarify and see if I understand. Was the last thing that you remember before they went out for, it sounds like 5 weeks roughly, was this is it? Or were there other thoughts before?
I had 3 thoughts. I thought about my family. Then I thought about my mom and how devastated she was going to be when she got the news or the knock on the door or the car in the driveway that informed her that I didn't survive to make it home. And my third thought was I said a quick prayer for forgiveness and anything I had done wrong in my life. So I never actually thought this is it. I just knew that it was it, from how I felt, from the blood loss, from how deeply I was being consumed by the tiredness, and how much I couldn't escape the lights fading. And so I don't think...
Were you trying?
Huh?
Were you trying to, you said escape the lights fading. Were you trying to escape that? Do you remember actively like fighting that?
No, it was so inevitable. And I don't know how I knew that, but, I was not escaping it. And I just knew without even having, it was crazy. I don't even know how that works, but I knew without even having the thought that, this was it.
Right.
But I'm thankful there wasn't any panic or regret. There wasn't, what have I done? Why am I dying over here? Anything like that. I mean, I tell people all the time, because, we were talking about last night, Afghanistan, some parts anyway. Hopefully it doesn't continue, but, the Taliban kind of resurging in certain areas. And I know people will, but I hope no one ever says like, oh, well, what were we doing over there? See, we didn't do anything, or, what did we lose all those service members for? People get so focused on, they think we're there just, trying to put America in Afghanistan, or trying to just fight and kill the Taliban, and that's our mission. No. There's a much bigger and deeper picture. And like having the patience and taking a deep breath to educate, when people approach you in weird, different, or uneducated ways. It's not any of the simple little things you're thinking about, or it's not as clear cut. The children there just want to learn how to read. They want fresh, clean drinking water. And ultimately, they just want to wake up and hope and realize that today's sunset or sunrise is a little better than the day before. And we don't want to put America there. We don't want everyone having MacBook Pros in their, villages. We just want them, if they want that, we want them to be able to make that decision without being oppressed and without fearing for their lives. That if they try to learn how to read, they're going to be killed, stoned to death, or beheaded. Or they're going to be kidnapped and killed. Or they're going to go to school and the Taliban are going to blow up and kill 200 little girls for wanting to learn. Like, it's not all about the bad guys. It's not all about anything you're probably thinking. I mean, think if you lived your life every day in fear, and you lived your life to where you never felt like you had any freedoms. And again, people criticizing, that is one of the beauties of us having a volunteer military force. And those, that 1% that gets exposed to what it's like to have boots on the ground over there. Yeah, we want to get rid of the Taliban, but I mean, fill in the blank on bad guys. We just want to give a fellow struggling human being a better and more hopeful life and future.
It sounds like that idea and that concept is carried over for you beyond military service, which I certainly appreciate. When you woke up, was there a moment where you're like, what in the world? Like, what was that like? Like coming to 5 weeks later, right?
Right.
Was it, oh shit, I didn't know that I would be alive, or were you confused, or what was that like?
It was, I mean, if I had to say one word, it was weird because I quickly realized, and I was in the hospital, I think. Well, first it was like, whoa, I woke up. I my last thought was, this is
done.
it.
Right.
Like, I'm never waking up again. And then I woke up, I'm like, sweet, like, awesome.
But you didn't know that time had elapsed, probably, or did you?
I didn't know, dude. I didn't know what year it was. I didn't know that time had elapsed.
Right.
I didn't know what had happened.
Yeah.
I didn't remember the grenade. I didn't remember seeing it, thinking about it. And even after I got hit, grenade went off. 1 second later, I was trying to put the pieces together in my mind of what even happened.
Right.
1 second after it happened. And my thought process was, okay, I'm pretty sure I was in Afghanistan. And I've been in Afghanistan for 4 months to this point. So that just shows how instantly distorted my reality and time was. And so I thought, okay, I'm pretty sure I was in Afghanistan. I think I was on a roof, but what could have injured me this bad on a roof? Maybe I got off of the roof. I went on a foot patrol. I stepped on an IED or a landmine, and the roof is just the last thing I can recollect. Then the lights went out, and then I woke up, and my first sight was, I opened the only I had left, 2 Christmas stockings that my mom had hung on my hospital room wall. So I think that instantly made me realize that I woke up for real.
Right.
Because in between this, remember, was a hallucination.
Sure, yeah.
And one of my hallucinations was I was in a coffin on a military transport plane flying back to the United States. And I woke up in this coffin.
You were in the coffin.
Yeah, I was in the coffin. And it was like, I guess from the bumps. And dude, it's so crazy. And like, I'm talking about this hallucination, but there was also giant spiders that attacked my hospital room, Taliban. My dad got shot up charging the emergency room because they wouldn't give me a surgery I needed. But I'm on this military transport plane, and I guess because of turbulence, and it was like a freaking coffin from the Civil War, like
just random,
dude, like cracks in it, just strips of wood.
You're like, is this all I get?
Yeah, yeah. But I was stacked with others though, and it was so weird. It was like I was on a future. I knew I was in a military plane, but it was like futuristic because we were in this little pod bay, and there was like this big, press a button and bzzz,
really?
Steam comes out and you walk
like
into
Avengers
the next room.
plane or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. And it's cracked because the turbulence, I guess, knocked the top off a little. And I can see there's like one service member in camouflage on the other side of this futuristic door. And I'm like screaming and doing, like shaking the coffin, doing everything I can to let him know, like, it's worst case scenario. Y'all put me in here and I'm not even dead. Come on. And I remember like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'm just like in there because this is a funny part of my crazy journey in the beginning. In this hallucination and a couple of others, I had stick arms, like straight up snowman.
Oh, really?
And when I woke up for real, woke up in this hallucination period, I would ask my mom, like, "Hey, Mom, I got to get up out of the bed. I got to go to the bathroom. Like, can I have my sticks?" And I would always ask for my sticks.
Oh, really? And that was your arms?
Yeah. And so, but I didn't have my sticks yet. So I'm like, I can't do anything. I don't have my arms. And I'm like hitting with my shoulders and bouncing back and forth, trying to rock my coffin to where it would fall off. It did. Cracked open. I fell out. Dude didn't notice me. He had no situational awareness. I'm like, great.
Well, come on, man.
Now I'm just like roly-poly all over the weird futuristic Avengers Bay of this place. But yeah, it was just, I guess, a funny side note. But I was very disoriented, but at the same time, those Christmas stockings, because they were so red and so bizarre, they kind of made me realize that maybe I wasn't hallucinating.
This is different.
Because they were somewhat normal.
Right.
And the hallucinations are just so out there. And then, my vision was blurry at first because, they had these drops, and I forget exactly. I used to have an MD in every single medication the hospital offered. But it's called atropine, and I forget what it is. But it dilates your eye.
Oh, okay.
And so the only good eye I had left was super dilated. So everything was kind of like blurry and nothing was in focus. But seeing those Christmas stockings, and then obviously just kind of seeing my parents in a normal hospital room, I woke up and I knew that somehow I was still alive.
Yeah.
And, a few weeks after I woke up, my mom said, we reached a point that she had dreaded from the moment they kind of knew I was going to survive. And that was waking up and asking to see my face. And I guess to kind of beat me to it and just maybe get out of the way, or she knew it was going to happen anyway. My mom said, do you want to see, your face and your stitches? And she got a little makeup mirror out. And I remember she showed me, and I was super pleasantly surprised.
Really? Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
It was better than you thought it would be.
I must have not. Yeah, I mean, I had stitches.
Sure.
My face was completely black, and a lot of people don't know unless they read the book, but those marks, and they faded significantly over time, but it was gunpowder tattooed into my face. Mm-hmm. And so it was really dark, and I obviously had an eye patch on. My head was shaved, and there was a big scar. But I mean, and minus the no teeth on the bottom, and my lower jaw being a little rigid from the wiring they put in it to reform it, I pretty much still looked like me. And way later on, I learned that, and I mean, my mom and my parents, I still can barely think about what they went through and kind of what I put them through, even though they would have never taken an extra second off, or they would have never not been there. The oral maxillofacial surgeons before my mom, either before or after she got there and before I had my facial reconstructive surgery, they asked her to bring any pictures she had of me from childhood, because so much of my face was blown apart. They didn't really know what I looked like before.
Right.
And so I can't imagine, she not only got the news that I'm clinging to life and to get there as soon as possible, but hey, can you bring any pictures so we can put your son's face back together?
Oh my gosh.
And so, but yeah, by the time I woke up, I mean, I had surgeries in 2 combat trauma hospitals in Afghanistan. I got probably touched up and cleaned up in Germany. And then, 7 days after getting hit on the battlefield, I got wheeled into at the time it was Bethesda National Naval Medical Center. Now they've merged hospitals, and it's Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Yeah, I woke up for real, and happy to still be kicking.
That's crazy, man.
I know.
It is wild. But this is why I wanted to talk about. I mean, obviously I enjoy our friendship, but again, I think it's important people hear these stories and they know about what you went through and what other people have gone through, because as we started this podcast, it's so convenient. Everything is so convenient and so easy. And that's not to discount that people are going through hard times, especially with what's going on right now, but it's so convenient and easy relative to any other time in history. And I think we take advantage largely, or take it for granted, I should say, largely, that there's millions of men and women who have paid sacrifices like you have, in the ultimate sacrifice to make sure that we can be as ignorant and fat and dumb, as lazy as we have a tendency of becoming. So man, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate what you've done. I'm so glad that you're willing to share this kind of stuff, because I imagine some of these stories are painful, but man, much needed. So I really, really appreciate you bringing these stories to us.
Same to you, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Thank you for your purpose and your platform and allowing me to share my stories. But to all the guests you have on, and just, whether it's this is the last episode or you do this for the rest of your life, you will never see the length or the depth that your ripple effects will go. And you never know who you're helping, how much you're helping. So thank you as well. And I'm encouraged that there's other awesome people, out there getting after it, trying to help people, and just let people know that we're all on this journey together. And you're gonna have your hard times, you're gonna have your wonderful times, and a lot of in between. But you can get through it. And I'm already looking forward to my next trip up to Maine.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're going to have you up for some ice fishing, some hiking, of course, more lobster, which I think we're going to do this afternoon, in fact. But yeah, anyways, brother, good to have you here. Honored to have you join us. Thanks again.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.